stop for just 30 seconds, because what you're about to hear could be worth up to £5,959 a year, and one of the biggest reasons people never receive it has nothing to do with being rejected. It's because they never apply. Every week, thousands of pensioners across the UK struggle to pay rising energy bills, cut back on groceries, or delay replacing essential household items because they believe there isn't any extra financial support available. But that's not always true. There is a benefit specifically designed for older people who need extra help because of a physical or mental health condition. Yet many people rule themselves out before they've even looked at the eligibility rules. They assume they have too much in savings. They think their private pension is too high. Or they tell themselves, I can still manage on my own, so I probably won't qualify. In many cases, those assumptions are exactly what stop eligible pensioners from claiming thousands of pounds every year. Today, we're going to separate the myths from the facts. We'll explain who this payment is for, why so many people overlook it, how much it could be worth in 2026, and the biggest mistakes that cause otherwise strong applications to fail. Most importantly, I'll explain the simple steps that could make the application process much easier if you decide to apply. And there's one point later in this video that many people never hear about, a detail that could potentially increase your entitlement to other forms of financial support after a successful claim. So don't miss that section. Let's start with the biggest misconception of all. Many pensioners believe that if they've worked hard all their lives, built up savings, or receive a decent private pension, they automatically won't qualify. That's understandable because many government benefits are based on your income or the amount of money you have in the bank. This one is different. Attendance allowance is based primarily on your care needs, not your financial circumstances. That means the question isn't, how much money do you have? The question is, do you need help because of a long-term health condition? That's a completely different test. Imagine two neighbors. One has very little savings. The other owns their home outright and has built up a comfortable retirement fund. If both have similar care needs caused by a long-term condition, their financial situation alone doesn't decide whether they qualify. This surprises many people because it's different from what they expect. Now here's another misunderstanding that stops thousands of claims before they're even started. People often say, I don't have a carer. I live on my own. I still cook my own meals. I don't want to ask anyone for help. But here's something important. Needing help and actually receiving help are not always the same thing. Many older adults quietly adapt to their health problems. They take much longer to get dressed. They avoid using the stairs unless absolutely necessary. They carefully plan every trip around the house to reduce the risk of falling. Some skip baths because getting in and out has become difficult. Others wait until someone visits before attempting certain household tasks. After months or even years, these adjustments begin to feel normal. People stop thinking of them as difficulties. They simply become part of everyday life. But when your daily routine has changed because of a health condition, that's exactly the kind of information that matters during an attendance allowance assessment. The focus isn't on whether you're determined enough to cope. It's about whether your condition means you reasonably need assistance or supervision with everyday personal care. That's a very important distinction. And here's another reason so many people miss out. They hear the word disability and immediately think it doesn't apply to them. They say, I'm just getting older. It's only arthritis. It's only my back. My eyesight isn't what it used to be. My breathing slows me down. But many successful claims involve conditions that millions of older people live with every single day. Arthritis, Parkinson's disease, heart conditions, COPD, reduced vision, hearing loss, the after effects of a stroke, memory problems, diabetes complications, chronic pain, balance issues, and many other long-term physical or mental health conditions. The diagnosis itself isn't the deciding factor. What matters is how that condition affects your everyday life. For example, does getting dressed take much longer than it used to? Do you need reminders to take medication safely? Do you feel unsteady when moving around your home? Do you avoid showering because you're worried about slipping? Do you need someone nearby when leaving the house? Do you regularly wake during the night needing assistance? These are the kinds of practical questions that become much more important than simply naming a medical condition. In just a moment, we'll look at exactly how much attendance allowance pays in 2026, why there are two different payment rates, and the simple test the DWP uses to decide which one may apply to your situation. One of the biggest mistakes people make is thinking that attendance allowance is only for those with severe disabilities or those receiving full-time care. In reality, the DWP looks at something very different. They look at whether you need help because of a health condition, not whether someone is already helping you. That distinction is incredibly important. Imagine two pensioners with arthritis. One has a family member who comes over every morning to help them get dressed and prepare breakfast. The other struggles through the same tasks alone because they don't want to bother anyone. Many people assume only the first person would qualify. But that's not how the system works. The DWP assesses the need for help, not whether the help is actually being provided. If getting dressed takes you much longer than it used to because of pain, if you avoid taking a shower unless someone is nearby in case you fall, if you have trouble remembering your medication, if you need to sit down halfway through preparing a meal, or if you become unsteady walking around your own home, those are exactly the kinds of difficulties that can support a claim. The same applies to many health conditions that people simply accept as part of getting older. Arthritis, Parkinson's disease, COPD, heart conditions, diabetes with complications, chronic pain, dementia, hearing loss, poor eyesight, anxiety, depression, stroke after effects, and many other long-term conditions may all qualify if they affect your ability to care for yourself safely. The diagnosis itself doesn't guarantee an award. Two people with the same medical condition can receive completely different decisions because the DWP focuses on how that condition affects daily life. That's why the claim form asks detailed questions about everyday activities rather than simply asking what illness you have. Another point many people overlook is the qualifying period. Generally, you must have needed help for at least 6 months before you can receive attendance allowance, unless you're claiming under the special rules for someone with a terminal illness. That 6-month period catches many people by surprise because they wait until their condition becomes much worse before even thinking about applying. If you've already been struggling for months, you may already meet that requirement without realizing it. Now let's talk about the money, because this is where many viewers begin calculating just how valuable this benefit really is. From April 2026, there are two weekly payment rates. The lower rate is paid to people who need help or supervision either during the day or during the night. The higher rate is paid to people who need help during both the day and the night. Over the course of a year, that higher rate adds up to almost £6,000 paid completely tax-free. And here's something that surprises many successful claimants. Receiving attendance allowance doesn't just put extra money into your bank account. For many households, it can also unlock other benefits that were previously unavailable. In other words, a successful claim can become the key that opens the door to additional financial support you didn't even know existed. That's why it's so important not to judge your own eligibility based on assumptions. Let the rules decide, not myths, not rumors, and certainly not the belief that someone else probably needs it more. In the next section, I'll show you exactly how to start your claim the right way, including one simple step that could protect weeks of backdated payments before you've even filled out the application form. Many people skip this first step, and it can cost them money without them ever realizing it. This next step is probably the most important part of the entire application process because it's where many successful claims are either strengthened or accidentally weakened. The very first thing you should do is contact the Attendance Allowance helpline and ask them to send you a claim form. That may sound obvious, but here's why it matters. Many people simply download the form online, fill it in over several weeks, and send it back when they're finished. While that might seem convenient, calling the helpline first can protect your entitlement from an earlier date. When you request the form by phone, the date of your call is normally recorded as the start of your claim, provided you return the completed form within the required time. That means if your application is later approved, your payments can often be backdated to that earlier contact date rather than the day the completed form arrives. For a benefit worth thousands of pounds each year, protecting those extra weeks can make a noticeable difference. Once the form arrives, don't feel pressure to complete it in one sitting. Many people rush through it because they think they're simply answering questions about their health. In reality, you're explaining how your condition affects your daily life, and that deserves careful thought. One of the most common reasons people receive a lower award or have their claim refused is because they unintentionally understate their difficulties. Think about how many times you've answered the question, "How are you?" with "I'm fine," even when you weren't. That same habit often appears on benefit forms. People write, "I manage," when the full truth is that getting dressed takes 40 minutes because of severe joint pain. They write, "I cook my own meals," without mentioning they have to stop several times to rest or worry about dropping hot pans because their hands shake. The DWP cannot award points for problems you never describe. That's why it's important to explain what happens on your difficult days, how long everyday tasks take, whether you need reminders, supervision, or physical assistance, and what risks you face if you try to do everything alone. Be specific. Instead of saying, "Walking is difficult," explain that you have to stop after a short distance because of breathlessness or pain. Instead of writing, "I struggle at night," describe how often you wake up needing assistance, feel confused, or risk falling when getting to the bathroom. Real examples help paint a much clearer picture than short, general statements. Supporting evidence is equally valuable. If possible, include documents that confirm your condition and explain how it affects your everyday life. This could include letters from your GP, hospital consultants, prescription summaries, care plans, or other relevant medical information. You don't necessarily need pages of paperwork. Even a clear letter explaining your diagnosis and the practical difficulties it causes can strengthen your application considerably. And remember, you don't have to complete the form on your own. Organizations such as Age UK and Citizens Advice regularly help people prepare attendance allowance claims free of charge. They understand the wording, know what information is most useful, and can often help applicants explain their circumstances much more effectively. For many pensioners, that extra guidance can make a real difference. But what happens if you've done everything correctly and the DWP still says no? Many people assume that's the end of the road, throw the decision letter away, and never challenge it. That can be a very costly mistake because the next stage of the process is something every applicant should understand before giving up. If your claim is refused, or if you're awarded the lower rate when you genuinely believe you meet the conditions for the higher rate, don't assume the decision is final. Every year, many attendance allowance decisions are changed after they are reviewed because additional information is provided or important details were overlooked in the original application. The first step is called a mandatory reconsideration. This is an official review carried out by a different DWP decision maker. You normally have 1 month from the date on your decision letter to request it, so it's important not to delay. When asking for a reconsideration, don't simply write that you disagree. Explain why you believe the decision doesn't accurately reflect your care needs. If you have obtained additional medical evidence, letters from your GP, consultant, or other healthcare professionals since submitting the claim, include those as well. Sometimes the missing piece isn't a new diagnosis, it's a clearer explanation of how your condition affects your daily life. If the decision still isn't changed after the mandatory reconsideration, you may be able to appeal to an independent tribunal. That sounds intimidating, but many people are surprised to learn that tribunals are completely separate from the DWP and review the evidence independently. A significant number of claimants succeed at appeal because the tribunal has the opportunity to hear more detailed information about how their condition affects them. You don't have to go through this process alone either. Organizations such as Age UK and Citizens Advice can often provide free guidance throughout both the reconsideration and appeal stages, helping you understand the paperwork and present your circumstances more clearly. There's another important point for viewers living in Scotland. Attendance allowance has been replaced there by pension age disability payment, which is administered by Social Security Scotland rather than the DWP. Although the payment rates are broadly equivalent, the application process is different. If you already receive attendance allowance in Scotland, your award is generally transferred automatically, so most existing recipients do not need to submit a brand new claim. Now, before we finish, let's pull everything together into a simple action plan you can follow today. First, ask yourself honestly whether a health condition makes everyday activities more difficult or less safe than they used to be. Don't compare yourself with other people, focus on your own daily challenges. Second, if you think you may qualify, request a claim form as soon as possible so your claim date can be protected. Third, complete the application carefully, describing your needs honestly and in detail rather than simply stating your medical condition. Fourth, include supporting evidence wherever possible and don't hesitate to seek free help from organizations that regularly assist with these claims. Finally, once a decision arrives, read it carefully. If you genuinely believe it doesn't reflect your circumstances, remember that you have the right to ask for a review. Before you leave, if you found this guide useful, take a second to subscribe and turn on notifications. We publish straightforward updates on DWP benefits, state pension changes, HMRC rules, and other financial support that could help you or someone you care about avoid missing money they're entitled to. And if you know a friend, neighbor, or family member who has been struggling with everyday tasks but has always assumed they wouldn't qualify, please share this video with them. It could help them discover support worth thousands of pounds a year that they never realized was available. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.